decided to do this extra yoga video because I think this is something that we need right now. We all need to practice yoga to stop, to be still, to breathe. So this sequence I'm going to teach today, we're going to stay close to the ground, connected to earth, and take time moving through our poses. We're also going to really check in with our breath. That's our greatest tool. So I want you to remember that as things continue on this week, to make sure that you breathe, that you stop to be still, even if it's just for a moment. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I would like to start to read something. So you're welcome to be seated. We're actually going to start in a particular pose. So if you just want to lie down on your back, you're welcome to do that, to listen to my words. You're also welcome to stay seated in a comfortable position. We'll just be here for a few moments as I read something to you from The Secret Power of Yoga. So it's a woman's guide to the heart and spirit of the Yoga Sutras. So if you're familiar with the Yoga Sutras, this is a translation by, I hope I say her name right, Nishala Joy Devi. And I really appreciate it, and I think this is really important for us right now. So it's Sutra 1.33. To preserve openness of heart and calmness of mind, nurture these attitudes. Kindness to those who are happy. Compassion for those who are less fortunate. Honor for those who embody noble qualities. Equanimity for those whose actions oppose your values. Here we are offered 4 priceless keys that, if used in conjunction with the correct locks, open portals that enable us to retain our inner peace in all circumstances. The greatest challenge is to remember that we hold the keys to our own peace. Just sit with that for a moment. Maybe you let out a sigh as you exhale. I'm going to move back to my mat. So the props that we need today are a blanket or a towel. If you have something that will work as a yoga strap, please have that. If you happen to have a yoga block, we're going to use that for one pose. But if you don't have one, the towel or blanket will work just fine. As always, honor your body as we work through our poses. You're welcome to skip any pose or do something that's better for your body. So the first pose that we're going to set up in today is a heart opener. And I think this is a really important pose. This is something you could practice at any time when you wake up in the morning, before you go to bed. It's a great way to open our heart. It does can cause some expose some vulnerability because our hearts are open. And physically, our bodies are typically slumped forward. So thinking about that with a lot of stress, anxiety, stuff going on right now, that you may physically be more in this position, and the pose we're going to do is actually going to open you up. So it can be a lot, it can be intense. We won't hold it for too long. So I know everyone has something different, but have your towel or blanket open to about this position. And then we'll roll it from the short edge. So for me, I already know if I roll this the whole way, it's too much, it's too intense. So I do about halfway, and then I have a little bit of blanket to support my head. So it'll be different for everybody, right? So you might already know the best spot for you, and you might not know, so you might have to come out, you might have to adjust. And then we come next to the roll, and if you kind of put your armpit right on top of the roll, you're in a pretty good spot. And I come right at the edge, so that when I roll over, and I come into constructive rest with my knees bent, my feet on my mat, I pretty much have the lower tips of my shoulder blades on the roll. So that's, if you wear a bra, that's where the bra strap goes, but it's basically right, like, think about something coming straight out from your armpits. Your arms should easily come above the roll. So if they're way below, then it's probably not in the right spot. You might have to adjust just a tiny bit. Your arms don't have to stay here though. This position here with the arms out to the sides really helps to open the heart, the collarbones, the shoulder blades, the chest. But if you need to bring your hands onto your heart, arms on the roll, you can. Just try not to have them down here because it's not as big of an opening, but do adjust according to you. You could also come into cactus arms, find the best spot for you. For me personally, keeping my knees bent is best, but you may want to extend your legs out long. You may want to step your feet wide and have your knees support each other. That's a place I like to be. And let's come to our breath, feeling the inhales and the exhales. Feel the expansion and the contraction. Allowing your heart to be open, to be vulnerable. But knowing that you're safe in this moment, connected with your breath. Finding peace in this moment. Your next inhale, make it bigger, fuller, deeper. Let out that sigh with the exhale. Releasing, letting go. If your legs are out long, bend your knees and bring your feet to your mat. We'll come back to that constructive rest with our feet about hip distance apart. And just roll over to one side into the fetal position. Take a moment here before you press yourself up to seated, pressing your hands into your mat, lifting your head up last, to come back up into a seat. It's one of my favorite poses. Ideally, like 5 minutes holding that pose. You could do longer, you could do shorter. We're probably in it for 2 minutes is my guess. I don't know for certain. Let's take our blanket or towel and fold it up. I'm going to sit on the edge. I'm going to just sit sideways for a moment. So I was talking about posture, right? So a lot of us, myself included, sit like this. Like if I just sat down, this is my normal posture. And sitting at the edge of the blanket allows my pelvis to tilt forward and to sit a little taller. I still have to remind myself I can still come into this, but it helps me to sit a little taller. Seated poses are not easy to do. It's hard to sit, so I don't teach a whole lot of seated poses. So we're coming to have our feet together, our knees out wide in Baddha Konasana. If this is not okay, your feet don't have to touch. They can also move farther forward, especially if your knees are really high. If you have blocks for pillows, you can put them under your knees to support them. We're opening our hips here, but this can be intense, so allow your body to be where it needs to be. So make any adjustments that you might need. But we want to sit tall. So if your hips, your knees are hindering sitting tall, adjust your legs in some way, whether with support or sitting in a different way. Sitting nice and tall here. So we store a lot of emotions in our hips. So as we do hip openers, you may feel a release. That's a good thing. You're in a safe place. Know that you're safe with me always. But if it's too much, again, honor that. Check in with yourself. We're going to come into a side stretch. So bring your right hand down by your side and reach your left arm up. So this might be enough for you today. And always adjust arms if you have shoulder issues. We're going to try to keep that left hip as connected to your mat or whatever you're sitting on as you can. You can start to come over. So we're going to bend a little bit in the right side. And we're not just going to crunch into it, right? So still feel a little bit of a lift and a grounding through that sit bone as well. You can bend your bottom elbow. Make sure that the shoulder doesn't come up to your ear. Keeping your heart open, thinking about these bottom ribs, trying to turn them to help open your chest into your side stretch. And then really breathing into your left side ribs here. On an inhale, bring your arms up. On an exhale, lower them. And then let's set our left hand to the side, right arm up and over, first reaching, and then start to come into that side stretch, that side bend. So for me on this side, I adjust my arm as I have a shoulder issue, though I just saw an orthopedist and I found out that my shoulder issue is not a shoulder issue. Our bodies are fascinating. So it's actually a nerve issue, but it feels like pain in my shoulder. So I'm hoping to see a specialist about that. That will perhaps allow me to have my arm in certain yoga poses without tingling and numbness. All right, let's inhale up, exhale down. We're gonna come into a little bit of a twist. So your left hand will come to your right knee, your back hand behind you. You wanna tense your fingers. If that's really hard to reach back there, you can just extend your arm behind you. I don't want you like slumping back to get there, right? Tall spine. And then moving from your belly button, and then opening your heart. Your head can stay wherever it feels comfortable. If it's comfortable to turn to look at the back behind you, you're welcome to do that, but don't feel like you have to. And then the next time you exhale, come out. Inhale, tall. Exhale, twisting the other way, bringing your right hand to your left knee, your back hand behind you. Your back hand helps you to lift tall and perhaps come deeper into the twist. And then your next exhale, come out. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale once again. My hips need a little break, so I'm gonna bring my hands on the outside of my knees and pick them up. You could extend your legs out long and do a little wiggle, jiggle. Sometimes having your hands behind you to support you and separating your feet a little bit to windshield wiper can be nice. And then we'll come back upright, bring our feet together, our knees out to the side. Adjust your feet, your legs once again if you need to. And then let's come into a forward fold. So we're gonna inhale nice and tall, reaching the crown of your head toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, hinge at your hip creases. So don't round to get there, hinge. So for some people, this is what your forward fold's gonna look like. For others, maybe you get your chest down to your feet. That doesn't happen for me. But you can work with your breath. Inhale, lengthening. Exhale, maybe you move a little more forward. Maybe not. Hands can be on your mat, on your feet, anywhere on your legs. Notice what's happening with your chin. We like to jut our chin forward, so see if your neck can stay in alignment with your spine. So you've been thinking about the back of your head, the base of your skull moving back slightly, and then the crown of your head lifting up. And up changes a little bit, right, as we start to come forward. The next time you inhale, come back up and fully exhale. Now we're going to bring our hands behind us. Let's just reach our fingertips. So I'm just going to turn so you can see what I mean. Reach your fingertips behind you. You need one of those lazy Susans. So we're reaching and we're thinking about where that roll was on the lower tips of your shoulder blades, reaching to open, to come into a little bit of a back bend. So don't dump your head back. Slight lift of the chin, just following where the spine is. Most of us won't open very much. Ooh, I'm really feeling the hips, so I'm breathing. All right, let's come back upright. Hands on the outside of the knees. Close them like a book. And I'm going to give a little relief again. You're welcome to as well. We're going to make our way back down onto our back. So I mentioned that our poses are going to be close to the earth, connected with the earth. That'll be the case for almost every pose. I have one pose that we're going to come up a little bit, and you'll have options to do something different if that doesn't work for you. If you have, now I don't have it near me, if you have a strap or strap-like item, have that nearby. Come into constructive rest. I like to have support under my head. Your feet are hip distance apart, a little bit in front of your knees, and arms are wherever is comfortable. So we're in constructive rest here. We're going to transition into pelvic tilt, which is like cat-cow, but on your back. So it's a pretty subtle movement in the body. So as you exhale, you're going to hollow out your belly, spread your low back onto the mat. And when you inhale, you're going to slightly arch your back. Your hips, your glutes, they stay on the mat. So it's a tucking and a tilting. I'm going to come up and do it seated so that you can see the movement in my body. So as you exhale, you come into that variation of the cat, hollowing out the belly, spreading the low back. And then when you inhale, you do the opposite, opening your heart. So the heart doesn't open as much when you come when you're on your back, but you can see the movement in my body. That's what's happening lying down. It's just much more subtle. Let's do that a couple more times. Finishing up your last round. We'll come back to constructive rest. So maybe you need to adjust your hips or your shoulders. A lot of our poses, we connect with our breath. So it keeps us present in the moment. Peace in this moment, right? And then let's hug our right knee into our chest. We're going to take our strap if we have one. If you don't, you'll just put your hands on the back of your thigh. Take your strap and the top of your heel, which is closest to your arch, is where you're going to try to aim your strap. And then once you have the strap there, straighten your leg. Reaching all four corners up toward the ceiling. If you have sciatica, it might be better to press through the ball of the foot than the heel. Supta Padangusthasana. Let's just keep our left knee bent, foot on the mat, even if you normally practice it with the leg out. And if your leg isn't straight, but your leg is pretty close to your body, you can always release the strap somewhat and move your leg farther away. So the goal is to be nice, long, straight here. Reaching from the back, up through the heel, the back of the leg. We'll release the strap, bend your knee, set your foot back down on your mat. And then hug your left knee into your chest. Take your strap, the top of the heel close to the arch, extend your leg. Whew. You might notice this side is tighter, or maybe the first side was tighter, and then check in, pressing through the ball or the heel. I prefer if you can press through all four corners, but sometimes that causes issues with in the sacrum or other parts of the body. So be mindful of that. Reaching, so nice and long, active here, as your right knee stays bent. Breathing through the intensity, noticing where you might be holding something you don't need to. That could be your hands. So see if you can let go a little bit, your jaw, your forehead. Okay, bend that knee, bring your foot to your mat, set your strap aside. And then step your feet as wide as your mat, and let's do some windshield wipering. So you're going to move to your breath again. When you exhale, your knees go to one side, and when you inhale, they come back up. And when you exhale, they go to the other side. Arms can be wherever is comfortable. Finish the round you're in, and then you'll come back to constructive rest. In constructive rest, your feet are hip distance apart. Let's hug our right knee in. Extend that leg up long, so hands can come behind your thigh. So it'll be as straight as it can be here. For some of us, I have tight hamstrings and I have short arms, so I can only hold on so much. So my knee is slightly bent, but I still reach. And then let's do some flexing and pointing with the foot. And then let's circle. We'll circle 4 times in one direction. And then 4 times in the other direction. Come back to center, pressing and lengthening. And then hug your knee back in. And check in if it would be okay. You can extend your left leg out long. Make sure it's nice and active so you're pressing through that foot. And let's press through the right foot. You can stay right here. You can do that with any pose, right? Or let's come into a twist. So extend an arm out, an arm. Extend your right arm out. And start to bring your leg over to the left. So you go as far as is appropriate for you. I'm going to allow my left leg to extend, to relax. And my right foot's kind of on top of my left leg. And my knee is not anywhere near the floor. And my left hand is supporting my right knee. And then inhale back up. Knee back in for a moment. Set your foot down. Bend your left knee, set that foot back on the mat, and let's move to the second side. So bring your left knee in, keep your right knee bent, and then let's extend that left leg long and tall, as long as you can. Your hands are kind of on the meaty part of your back of your thigh. And let's do that flexing and pointing again. Going slowly here, no rush. One more. And then we'll do that circling, moving the ankle, the toes around in one direction 4 times. And then once you come to center, reverse it, doing 4 times in the other direction. Once that's complete, you come back to center, reaching and lifting. Bend your left knee, bringing it back in. If it's okay, extend your right leg out long. If that's not okay, you can keep your knee bent. You can come into the twist, you just don't go very far. Or maybe the right knee goes out a little bit. So that right leg is nice and long, pressing through the left heel. And then we'll start to allow that left knee to come over, crossing over the body to come into a twist. My foot's resting on my leg a little bit. My right hand is supporting my left knee. My right leg becomes a little relaxed. My left arm is just out to the side. Mine's a little more down because my left shoulder or my left nerve causes some issues, so adjust accordingly. And then inhale back up, leg back in, set your left foot down, set your right foot down, back to constructive rest. And hug your knees in, and you're welcome to rock, to open and close your knees. You can do some more action with the feet and ankles and toes. And then when you're ready, roll over to one side. Take your time here. Just don't jerk yourself up. Press up to seated. So here's the one pose we're going to do that's not as close to the mat, though it still is. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. If that's not okay for you today or always, so I'm trying to make this practice appropriate for many, many people who need to practice yoga, you have other options. So one option is that you can stay on your back, hug your knees into your chest, maybe do some rocking, you do windshield wipering again. If there's something else that pleases you, your body, then you do that. You could also come into a child's pose. I know for a lot of people that's not okay, but child's pose, you bring your knees wide, your big toes touch or come close together, and you sit back on your heels. So that's where that could be an issue with the knees, with the ankles, and that's why I like some padding, to have padding there. And then let's hinge forward and come on down. That's a way to come into your child's pose. If you'd like to come into downward facing dog, come into a tabletop, step your hands forward, curl your toes under, lift your knees up, and shift your hips back into your downward facing dog. Fingers are spread wide, you're moving your thighs back. Your shoulder blades are lifted and reaching. Your gaze is at your toes. And let's bring our knees down to our mat. And we're going to come back into a seated position. So I set up my blanket once again, and I'm going to come into a cross-legged position just for a moment. And then let's extend our legs out long. Nice and active here. And then bend your right knee and bring your foot to your mat and extend your left leg out long. Inhale nice and tall. On your exhale, start to move from your belly button to the right, bringing your left hand to your right knee, your back hand behind you. Tall and open here, even as you come into your twist. Your next exhale, you'll come out. Extend that leg out long. Bend your left knee. Inhale tall. On your exhale, come into your twist. On your next exhale, come out of the twist. Extend your leg out long. Let's come back down onto our mat in constructive rest. For a moment here, just to notice and feel your breath. We're going to set up for a supported bridge. You're welcome to use your blanket or a block, but we don't want anything under our head. So I'm actually going to roll over to get my block. You could use a blanket, so I'll show you how to set up. So we want the natural curve of our neck. So if we have a thick blanket, that's not helpful. We can hurt our necks, so we want to keep the natural curve. If you absolutely need something under your head, you can have a thin amount of blanket, which I do sometimes. So if you're going to use your blanket, you come into constructive rest, press your feet into your mat, lift your hips up, and slide that blanket under your hips and your low back, and rest. If you're going to use a block, the block doesn't go under your low back, just your hips and your sacrum. If it's under your low back, it's too much, can be painful. This is a little bit of a heart opener. Our heads are below our hearts, so that's an inversion. That was the idea with the downward facing dog, was to get our head below our heart. We'll press our feet into our mat, lift up, slide the block out of the way, bring your hips back down to your mat. You're going to set up for your final relaxation pose. If you have extra blankets or pillows, you could use those to support your knees, your legs, whatever would work for you. It won't be a very long Shavasana. You're welcome to pause and set up for 5, 10, 15 minutes. You can just set the timer on your phone. So usually if it's a shorter Shavasana, I have my knees bent and my feet out wide and allow my knees to come together to support me. So I'd like to do that reading again for you. So feel free to get comfortable. I, of course, have to sit up. So stay in your pose with your breath. Feeling the expansion and the contraction. Expansion as you inhale, feeling your body with nourishment, with energy. And as you exhale, contracting, releasing, letting go of something that's no longer serving you. Remembering that connection to your breath as you inhale and exhale. Remembering a safe place for you when you need this moment to preserve openness of heart and calmness of mind. Nurture these attitudes. Kindness to those who are happy. Compassion for those who are less fortunate. Honor for those who embody noble qualities. Equanimity to those whose actions oppose your values. Here we are offered 4 priceless keys that, if used in conjunction with the correct locks, open portals that enable us to retain our inner peace in all circumstances. The greatest challenge is to remember that we hold the keys to our own peace. Start to deepen your breath. Feel your body fill with air, oxygen, nourishment, peace. And as you exhale, perhaps letting out a sigh, releasing and letting go of something. Finding peace in this moment. You can start to make small movements in your body. Perhaps you make bigger movements in your body. A stretch, hug your knees in, something else that would be really good for you right now in this moment. Good, delicious, what you need, what you want. In your own time, make your way over to one side. The strength of your hands and arms. Press yourself up to seated, bringing your head up last. So you keep all of that goodness sealed inside just a little bit longer. Come to a comfortable seat, whatever that might be for you, where you can sit tall, you can sit well. You can close your eyes or soften your gaze. And we'll bring our hands together at heart center in Anjali Mudra to seal our practice together. Keep peace in your mind, keep strength in your body, and keep love in your heart. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Please be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, be kind to others. But first, take care of yourself. You're welcome to email me or comment below. You can email me at therealgofitgirl@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter as GoFitGirl and Instagram as The Real GoFitGirl. If you need me for anything, contact me in any way that fits your needs, the best way for you. Take care of yourself, honor yourself, and I hope to practice with you again soon.